Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? All right, Saints great. Lance Moore, good enough to join us for a couple of minutes here. Of course, WDSU, Saints Hall of Famer. We always appreciate a couple of minutes. Lance, thanks for the time, man. How are you?
Doing well. I've cooled off a little bit from yesterday, but still very, very disappointed and confused about what's going on with this team and specifically this offense.
Yeah. Let me not bury the lead. I know you did an interview on WDSU where you called for a change in play caller with Ronald Curry taking those duties. Let me just not put any words in your mouth and just let you take it from there.
Look, I think that, well, let me just start by saying I've been watching the same games that everybody else has been watching. And I, over the last year plus, have been a big-time defender of Pete Carmichael because I do think he is a very, very smart offensive mind. I think he's a really, really good coach as far as X's and O's and being able to prepare the quarterback position. With that being said, our offense just looks broken. And I don't think the problem is a lack of talent. Actually, I know the problem is not a lack of talent. We've got plenty of guys who are more than capable of being really, really good to great players offensively. We've got a quarterback that has all the talent that's necessary to lead a very, very good offense. And for us to, after 4 weeks, have 4 total touchdowns offensively is pretty gross when you think about it. We've the last 5+ years have relied heavily on our defense, and the excuse the last couple of years was, well, we don't have a quarterback, and even when Drew was still playing, well, Drew's not 100% healthy. Our defense is going to have to carry the load, but now we've got a multiple-time Pro Bowl quarterback, and for whatever reason, we still can't score points. So to me, it's not necessarily the guys that are on the field. Obviously, they're the ones that have to execute, but they can only execute whatever plays are called for them each and every week. And I'm not sitting here calling for Pete Carmichael's head. I love the guy. I spent several years with that guy, 8 years in that offense with him. And I just do think that there needs to be a change as far as play calling goes. I don't think he should be fired. If that's a necessary part of the process, then I get it. But I like I said, I'm not sitting here calling for his job, but I do believe that the duties as far as play calling goes should go to a younger and hungry Ronald Curry.
I'll come to Ronald Curry in a second, but I want to stay on Pete Carmichael for a second because you did mention, during your time in New Orleans after 2005, when Sean came in 2006, Pete came with him, so you were in a lot of meeting rooms. Can you just elaborate a little bit on what Pete Carmichael is like, Lance? Because the perception is Sean and Pete were kind of like, 1A, 1B, side by side for that long, so there should be a relatively easy transition, which clearly hasn't happened. So what can you tell us about Pete Carmichael, the offensive strategist?
Yeah, well, 1A and 1B as far as maybe game planning and designing plays, but definitely not similar in personality. Sean is a very boisterous, loud, intense coach, and Pete is pretty much the exact opposite. He's very, very reserved and pretty quiet and not a super fiery guy. And I'm not sitting here saying that guys in the NFL need a fiery coach, because that's not necessary in my opinion. But they are definitely different personalities. But with that, Pete is like a very, very student of the game, like a big time student of the game, and he studies and he watches film, and it's not a lack of preparation on his part. I don't think. I do think there's been somewhat of a not intimidation, but an imitating or an imitation factor with him, trying to piggyback off of the success of how Sean would coordinate a game or call a game. And I think in order for somebody to be great at something, they need to be their best self and not try to emulate or be somebody else. And just an example, I guess, of that
Sure.
is Sean is known for the multiple personnel groupings, right? Every single play, we're running a different group on the field, and I understood that back then. We had the guys that I guess were perfect to be able to run that type of system. But again, it's Sean that's running that system, and Sean has run that system for a very, very long time. Just watching the game on Sunday, I was watching the personnel groupings change on every play, and I kid you not, almost every single time I knew what was coming based on the people who were on the field. So if I'm watching from afar, and obviously I played in that offense, but if I'm watching from afar and I can tell, hey, Pete Kirkwood and Lynn Bowden are the two receivers in the game, we're probably not throwing the football. It's probably going to be a run here. And sure enough, those two are in the game, and we're running the football. And it's just to me, I feel like he's emulating Sean and not taking advantage of the skill that we have on this offense. I would not take those three receivers, Olave, Shaheed, and Michael Thomas. I wouldn't take them off the field unless it's a short yardage situation and we need two other tight ends in the game. Like, those guys are so good and mean so much to that offense. When we take them off the field, they can't make plays, clearly. So it's just, I think, like I said, I think Pete is a very, very bright offensive mind. I think he has kind of maybe not lost his way per se, but just I think it's just time for a fresh start. I do. I think somebody being able to come in and have a new voice and have a new intent with what we want to do offensively, because I couldn't tell you what our identity is. I don't know if we're a running team. I don't know if we're a passing team. We're terrible on third down. We're terrible converting in the red zone. I mean, we don't have big plays. We were fooled early on. We got one big play in each of the first two games, and everybody thought the vertical passing game was there. It's not. So it's really, and then I guess Dennis Allen said this morning that there's not going to be a change. But in my mind, it's like, okay, there's not going to be a change. So what are we expecting to change? Right? Are we just expecting to show up one day and the execution is perfect and the play calling is perfect and everything, and now we start blowing people out? Because I haven't seen it. It's been over a year. It's almost been a year and a half now. So if that is where his head is at, then I'm a little bit concerned as to where the players' heads are going to be at if this continues.
Saints Hall of Famer Lance Moore is with a Super Bowl champion. How easy or difficult would it be to change voices midstream? I mean, 4 games into the season to change to a new play caller?
As long as the offense, the terminology and the concepts and things like that remain mostly the same, I don't think it will be that big of a deal. I dealt with a situation in my last year in Detroit, 2015. Joe Lombardi, our former Saints guy, was fired after, I want to say, 5 or 6 weeks, maybe 7 weeks, and Jim Bob Cooter moved up to be the offensive coordinator. But we changed the offense. We were changing terminology, and it was hard. But again, we're pros, man. And if we're called to have to change things up to make things better, then so be it. But I don't know for a fact that Ronald Curry would keep the same offense, the same terminology and vernacular and all that. But I would imagine he would, because it's been proven to work. It just needs to be called the right way. And I think that having a young, hungry coach in there with the situation as is, like, look, man, we're kind of sort of at rock bottom, and I can be the one to kind of right the ship. I think that would be a great move. And look, hopefully I'm dead wrong, and we come out and Pete calls a great game this weekend, and we're kind of like, okay, well, he's got it together, and then he continues it. But if not, and things continue to be bad, then, it's just going to get worse in that locker room. It's going to get worse in the media. It's going to get worse for the fans. And I just hope that it doesn't come to that.
Lance, I got 2 more for you. Your time always appreciated, man. One, we saw Ronald Curry take play calling duties for part of the preseason. Is there, I don't know if you were even locked into any of that, but is there anything that you would think that Ronald Curry would do differently that would make sense for this offense?
I think he would establish an identity. He is a former quarterback, obviously, and played wide receiver in the NFL. So I think he's got a really good grasp on what he would like to do conceptually. I can't tell you exactly what that is. I would imagine he would like to throw the football, but he, like everybody else, understands you got to be able to do both in the NFL if you want to be really good. We can't just come out and air it out 50 times a game and neglect the running game. But I keep going back to the fact, like, young, hungry, like a guy that has been thirsting for an opportunity like this. Look, Pete's been around 18 years, man. He's had a great run, and obviously he hasn't had to call plays a lot. I was very, very confident in him because of the way that he called the games way back in 2012 when Sean was suspended. Yep. And I had my only 1,000-yard season that year when he was calling the play. So I was like, oh, this guy definitely knows what he's doing, and he's going to be able to do it well. But for whatever reason, it just has not worked out thus far this season. There's another game this week, and if there is no change, I obviously wish him well because I wear my heart on my sleeve just like the rest of Who Dat Nation, and I want us to do well. I want us to play well. And I specifically want the offense to be able to execute and put up numbers like I know we're capable of.
Lance, last thing, you mentioned like the locker room and continuity. We heard Alvin Kamara's comments post-game, but we need to figure it out because I don't like to lose. When the defense plays so well and you have one side of the ball that's just not holding up their end, how does that start to affect, or when does that start to affect locker room continuity?
Well, I think it's frustrating, but at the end of the day, as long as you've got the right group of guys, which I think they do, who genuinely like, love, and or care about one another, I don't think it gets to the point where there's like a mutiny or everybody, on offense hates everybody on defense. I don't think it ever gets that serious, but it can be frustrating. I dealt with that a little bit in my time in New Orleans, where we'd have a really, really good offense. And we would just come in the beginning of the week, and receiver coach or one of the offensive coaches say, "Hey, we got to score 40 this game." And to us, we took it as a challenge. Like, okay, we'll put up 40, and hopefully at some point they come around. But I think that how long it's been frustrating as far as our offense not playing to the level that it's capable of, including last season. Hopefully the guys are able to stick together and look, man, we're doing everything we can. You can't do anything. You can't do anything offensively. You can't run a play except for the one that's called, right? Like Derek Carr's not getting the play call in his helmet and then calling something else. Like, that's just not how it works. So, obviously, the plays call should be better. The guys should be executing better. And hopefully we right the ship and get things going in the right direction because, again, I believe that we've got the firepower and the capability to be one of the better offenses in the league, not one that struggles to score double digits.
Always insightful. Saints Hall of Famer Lance Moore. Lance, we always appreciate the time, man. Thank you.
Thank you guys for having me.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.